So Osiris, this video is all about Osiris. So he is the twin flame, the sacred counterpart to Isis, the father of Anubis, the father of Horus. And, you know, his story is very, very powerful because he was dismembered by his brother Set through jealousy. And also it was a power struggle. So let me just rewind as to how the Egyptians actually buzzed in those days, so to speak. Any kings, if they had, they would actually have marital affairs. They'd be intimate with their sisters, right? It was not uncommon that they would have babies and live with their sister as king and queen, husband and wife, and they'll be intimate. However, if the first lady passed away for whatever reason, then the king would always take the first lady from one of their daughters. Now, they wouldn't be intimate with their daughters. That was a no-go, but they would just bring the daughter online to kind of like fill the space of the first lady. But when they were brothers and sisters, they totally had children together. It was a sexual connection, you know, like physical sexual connection. Now, Set, Nephthys, Isis, and Osiris, 4 siblings. Okay, their parents were Nut and Geb. Nut, mother of the stars, and Geb was father of the earth, also known as Green Man. So they were what I call ethereal parents. They didn't take physical form, but the 4 children were they were the first gods and goddesses that took physical form. So yeah, or the first lot anyway. So that's Isis, Osiris, Set, and Nephthys. Now, Set and Nephthys got married and they went off that way, and Isis and Osiris got married. Now, there was a split with ancient Egypt, you know, the upper and lower lands, and there was a lot of jealousy from Set towards his brother Osiris, because he's also the god of agriculture, Osiris was. So he brought a lot of blessings and regeneration to the land. And of course, all the Egyptians, they were farmers. So, you know, he was highly, highly regarded. And Isis was also one of the popular goddesses as well. She was always not in the temples, not in the palace. She wanted to be out there with the people. She was a midwife. She wanted to be with the people, getting her hands dirty in the soil and very much active, like, and seen, right? But Nephthys, her sister, twin sister, they call her the lady of the house. She didn't like any of that limelight. She was Nephthys is kind of like quite dark. And when I say dark, I don't mean like evil or shady or anything like that. I mean, she was like dark spell casting. That's why she's known as Dark Isis, because she's kind of like the shadow aspect of the goddess, not in darkness, as I say, as in bad version of that. She was just the one that just wanted to stay in the background, very powerful. And I'll talk a lot about Isis and Nephthys in another video. But for now, just to understand the dynamic as them as brothers and sisters, right? So anyway, Nephthys was barren. She couldn't have any children. She was married to Set, and Set is now regarded in Egypt as the god of he's actually like the devil. He's the god of storm. And we're going to do a video. I'm going to do a video on him, so I'm not going to do too much about that now. But yeah, they're kind of like, they were like the uncool kids, and Osiris and Isis were like the cool kids. So you can imagine the jealousy between the 2 brothers. Anyway, it turns out, you know, Osiris was more popular. He got the land, he got the throne. Through a jealousy kind of like attack, let's say, you know, long story short, he tricked his brother into stepping into a coffin, banged the lid on it, sailed it down the Nile and sunk it. But Isis was so heartbroken that she went and located where his coffin was, brought him back, and basically brought him back to life. And then Set was like, no, I'm not having this. And he cut him up into 14 parts and said, right, and spread him all over the far corners of Egypt, said, right, now try and find him. Now, this is where we speak about the finding of the head of Osiris, which is in the Osiron, which is at Temple Abydos. Now, that's where they found his head. So he was dismembered. So think about the spiritual aspect about what he was showing us. He was dismembered, cut into many pieces. That is our soul fragments shattered through trauma, right? Isis, who is the great goddess of restoration, yes, unconditional love and all the rest of it, but she's also a huge soul retrieval goddess. Now, if you're going to do work with soul retrieval, kind of shamanic, I suppose, she's very much all about that, because then she got together with Thoth and Nephthys, her sister, and brought energy and spells together to remember him. So she was able to remember him apart from one body part, which was his phallus, otherwise known as penis. And the story goes, shouldn't laugh, but it's just very unfortunate, a fish ate his phallus, and that meant because there was a body part missing, he wasn't able to come into full restoration, into physical form, reincarnated. So that's why he had to go to the underworld as a god, okay? And he was now became god of the afterlife, right? So that's why how that happened. Now, Isis knew that she had to bring their child forth and impregnate herself. But I mean, what are you going to do if the guy hasn't got the tools to do it? So she got together with Thoth and Nephthys, and they did powerful spell casting. She transformed herself into a kite, a bird, and she hovered above Osiris, where obviously his phallus is supposed to be, and she impregnated herself with the energetic seed. I suppose you could call it a light conception, if you like. And she did get pregnant, and then she obviously had Horus. So that's how that came around. And then her quest, as I've spoken in other videos, was to condition Horus, prepare him to take the throne of his father and avenge his father's death, which took many, many years. So that's kind of like the backstory of Osiris, you know. So he was dismembered and he is remembered. We are remembering ourselves. So he is very much the god of, you know, he always says, you know, what are you dying to let go of? You know, are you dying to surrender? He's very much falling into the waters and just letting it all go. We are in such powerful times right now of deep, deep, deep death vibes. You know, we are letting go of so much, our old selves, all of the trauma in our DNA from lifetimes upon lifetimes of lifetimes. And Osiris said to me, you cannot rebirth. You cannot be reborn unless you are prepared to let go of all of this. And I kept saying to him, but what about? And he was like, no, die. And I was like, yeah, but this, he said, the more you pick up the details, there's a resistance that you're not dying. Just die. He was very, you know, straight. Now, I've channeled the gods and goddesses for many years. I've had no problems in tapping into those frequencies. But the one god that has been very, very kind of like in the background, very similar to Hathor actually, is Osiris. He has always been there. He has always made himself known to me. He's always stood in front of me and I felt his energy, but he said nothing. He's kind of like quite intimidating. But only of recent times, since we've gone through this massive, powerful shift and moving into like huge expansion levels, meaning end of, you know, 2022, moving into 2023, very, very powerful times. Now he's come online and now he has spoken to me through channel and doesn't stop talking to me. And he said, bottom line is you needed to know when you'd really embodied the final death walk, because he was symbolic in his silence. And he said, when I started to speak to you, then you knew that you were okay. Now you're moving through to the other realm, to the other side. And that is why he kept his silence. So I would know that, you know, certain shifts were actually happening. So that's how Osiris worked with me. He may work with you completely differently. And this is what I always say, allow your own encodements, your frequencies, your vibration, because Osiris is in each and every one of us. And when we work with the gods and goddesses, it's not to worship them and bring them in and keep them out there. It's to understand that they are a divine reflection of you and you are a divine reflection of them. So when you activate your frequency and connection with Osiris, essentially what you are doing is you are bringing that frequency and vibration online within your own blueprint. And then there's the vibration match. So if you feel that you are being very powerfully contacted by a certain god or goddess, in this case, Osiris, sorry, pointing on the wrong side, you know, he's saying, right, it's time. It's time. That's what gods and goddesses do. They hold a certain frequency, a certain skill sets that you need now in this lifetime, which is why what I call the changing of the guards, some gods, goddesses will step back and one will step in, because it's like, oh, okay, I've activated that now. You know, I don't need to work in those realms now. I need a guide with them or a god with more skill sets so I can activate those within me. So that's essentially what happened with Osiris, you know. So he's a very, very powerful being, like very powerful being, you know. There is a lot of presence as well as far as temples goes in Egypt. For me, I feel his presence very, very strongly. In fact, more so than Abydos, the temple. I find his presence very, very powerful in the Great Pyramid, Isis and Osiris. And they are, you know, obviously they're twin flames. So you have like Orion, which is where he is from, and Isis is from Sirius. And I hold a very powerful connection with the two. So it may be, if you're similar to me, that when you tap into the starseed frequency of these gods and goddesses, this will very much assist you and guide you in bringing your own twin flame frequency into union within by understanding, like, you know, working with them. But then you might work with Sekhmet and Ptah. You might find that Hathor and Horus brings that to you. But for me, sharing with the group now as I am, it was Osiris and Isis that really connected me through the Great Pyramid. Now, there is a reason, and I don't know how true it is, but at the end of the day, every mythology story and everything like that holds frequency and vibration. So steer away from, is it factual or not? How does it feel in your energy? So there is one story story that I've connected with, and I've actually feel that it's kind of true energetically. I have two theories, because I do actually think the Great Pyramid was built way before Egypt, and it was actually built in Atlantis. I do feel that. However, for teachings of ascension and enlightenment, there is a story out there that Isis built the Great Pyramid because it's actually the Great Pyramid is about the afterlife, which could actually ring true, because as you look at the Great Pyramid, there is an exit. In fact, this video is not mirrored, but like the exit on this side, which would be the left side of the pyramid. Okay. And it connects into the stream of the Milky Way. Now, the Milky Way is for passed on souls. You'll find that in every single religious philosophy. They speak about the same thing, that the lost souls would travel out of the Great Pyramid, out of a portal, into the stream of the Milky Way, and they'd be taken to the afterlife on the boat to go and visit Osiris. Now, they say that Isis actually built the Great Pyramid because of Osiris, so they could come together as one. There is lots of frequency in that for me. That my system vibrates and feels a lot of truth in that. As far as the mental body going, well, I do kind of know, as far as like years ago, that it was built in Atlantis, whatever. Let that go. But if that energy lands with you, like I say, it's another chance for activation and expansion in your energy and being. Because let's face it, come away from the facts. We're just trying to ascend. Everything is a frequency and vibration. Go with what it feels like rather than what it thinks like. Okay. So that's what I have to share with Isis and Osiris, but more Osiris. Very, very powerful, assistive God. And he has much to share with us in this now time. So this is Osiris.